They respect that sometimes the answer is no, but don't just leave it there. Explain why it's no, and give them potentially an opportunity of another avenue to attack the problem they have. If you do that, you're doing your job incredibly well.
Covering more than just legislation, Salga facilitators and councillors across the party line giving each other tips on communication skills and conflict resolution. Seasoned councillor Graham de Kock still values this training.
And I think it's really important that we go through them every time, because you tend to forget certain things in your line of business, and you only deal with what you're required to deal with. And it's pertinent that we're reminded about the legislation that governs our behaviour all the time.
You come into a new thing and then you think you've got an idea of exactly what is happening. And then as soon as you get in there, you discover that there's much more bigger than what you thought it was. But I'm happy because after that discovery, we've also been armed with the tools of how can we be able to shoulder all this responsibility, because it's a huge responsibility to represent the people, more especially when we live in a city like Johannesburg, when we've got varieties of communities and challenges.
The focus is around them understanding the legislative framework within which they are expected to operate in. Secondly, what the roles of councillors are, what the roles of the municipal council as a collective is, and what is expected from them to deliver services that they promised during the election campaign to communities, what that actually entails and how they should go about doing that.
This year's training, I think, is far more structured. We've got a really wonderful manual that Salga has produced, and I think it contains a huge amount of information which is going to be very useful to all of us in the 5 years that we're going to be in office. And so, yes, I'm delighted that they've stepped up their game, and I think formalised it and probably using it as a formalised training program.
So for me, the Municipal Financial Management Act have been one of the most important learnings because it taught me of the processes that each municipality should be able to follow as far as the finances are concerned.
But there is, of course, always room for suggestions.
I really would like to see the manual that they've produced in electronic form, and I don't know if that's possible, but if that could be distributed to councillors, because then again, one could use that as an easy reference without having to drag a fairly heavy book around. It also gives you the opportunity to use that information to train activists and people who we identify who potentially could be really good councillors in the next term.
I think there should be more intensive workshop going forward. But these, for a start, they've been very informative.
Over the next 18 months, what we intend doing is to have portfolio-based training, and they will then get an accredited certificate at the end of that training program.
It sounds like Councillor Novela's wish will be granted, and Johannesburgers could also expect service from well-informed and trained councillors. Marisa de Klerk, Joburg Today.